Welcome, and thank you for being here. Wherever you are listening from, let your shoulders soften, let your breathing slow, and allow the day to drift a little farther away. Tonight, you're stepping into ancient Egypt, a land where the Nile was sacred, where torchlight carried stories, and where myths were believed to live inside the wind and weather. This is the legendary conflict between Horus and Seth, not as a loud battle, but as a calm, cinematic struggle between two forces that cannot share the same throne. One is the rightful heir, raised in hiding, shaped by patience and guided by balance. The other is chaos made flesh, the storm, the desert wind, the force that refuses to be contained. You don't need to hold this story tightly. If you're listening to relax or to fall asleep, you can simply let it unfold. There will be moments of tension and moments of stillness, like torchlight moving in the wind, and by the time the sun rises, the world will feel different. So get comfortable, and when you're ready, we'll step onto the banks of the Nile, where the water is dark, the sky is heavy, and the gods have gathered to witness a final decision. The Nile is calm tonight, but it doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like the world is listening. Moonlight stretches across the river in long, pale ribbons, broken gently by the slow movement of water. Along the shore, torches burn in quiet lines, their flames leaning slightly as the wind passes, as if even fire has learned to be careful. In the distance, an island sits in the middle of the river, low and stony, ringed by sand that gathers and releases like breath. It isn't large, it doesn't need to be. Tonight, it is enough, because tonight, Egypt will be decided there. For years, the throne has been caught between two forces that cannot share the same crown, Horus and Seth, order and chaos. And at last, the gods have stopped delaying. They have chosen this island so that no city can interfere, no army can tip the scales, no mortal hand can change the outcome. Only the river and the sky and the witnesses of heaven. On both shores, far enough away to keep the law pure, the divine tribunal has assembled. Ra stands at the center, not as a warrior, but as the sun itself given form, a presence so steady it makes everything around it feel more real. Near him is Thoth, the god of wisdom, still and watchful, holding his staff as if it is a pen poised above a page. Isis stands with her hands folded, not in weakness, but in restraint. Nephthys watches in quiet shadow. Hathor remains calm, but tense. Wadjet and Nekhbet, ancient guardians of the two lands, are present as reminders that Egypt itself has a spirit, and that spirit has been waiting. And along the far banks, mortals gather in silence, not close enough to interfere, only close enough to hope, because even the people understand the shape of what is about to happen. If Seth wins, Egypt remains a kingdom ruled by fear. If Horus wins, Egypt becomes whole again. The torches crackle softly, the wind shifts, the river makes a sound like a long exhale, and then the air changes. A ripple crosses the Nile, not from fish, not from current, but from presence. Seth steps onto the island first. He does not arrive like a man crossing sand. He arrives like weather taking a shape. Where he walks, the air dries. Even the scent of the river seems to pull back, replaced by something older, dust and stone and open desert. He is tall, broad, and sure of his place. Black and gold armor catches torchlight, carved with storm patterns and desert marks. A red gemstone at his chest holds the light like an ember refusing to die. In his hand a curved khopesh rests with quiet threat, its edge faintly alive with sparks. Seth does not look afraid. He looks insulted, as if the world should already know the throne belongs to whoever can hold it. He stands near the center of the island and waits. Then the water shimmers again, softer this time, clearer. Horus steps onto the island from the opposite shore. He does not bring dryness, he brings focus. A clean wind follows him, the kind that comes just before sunrise. His armor is gold and lapis. His cloak moves quietly behind him like a banner that refuses to touch the ground. In his hand, he holds a spear whose tip reflects moonlight with a steady gleam. Horus does not glare. He watches Seth the way a king watches a problem that must be resolved. Not with hatred, but with decision. For a moment, everything is still. Even the river seems to slow. Ra raises one hand. "This ends tonight," he says. Thoth's voice follows, calm and measured. "By sacred decree, the throne will be decided by combat. No mortal will interfere. No god will interfere. We will only witness and judge." Thoth pauses. "And if either of you attempts ruin beyond the law, the tribunal will end you." Seth's jaw tightens. Horus remains still. Thoth lifts his staff once. The air trembles like a bell struck far away, and the battle begins. Seth moves first, quick and heavy, sand lifting beneath his feet as he closes the distance. His khopesh swings in a wide arc meant to take space, meant to force Horus backward. Horus pivots calmly and raises his spear shaft, catching the strike at an angle. The sound is clean, metal meeting wood and metal again, like a temple bell struck once in the night. Torches flicker, then steady. Seth tests again, changing rhythm like wind changing direction. Horus yields space, not in fear, but in understanding, stepping back once, then twice, meeting blade with spear, redirecting force, letting it pass. Seth fights like restlessness. Horus fights like a river. Seth swings downward. Horus slips aside. Seth turns the motion into another strike. Horus blocks, then answers with a precise spear thrust that scrapes Seth's armor, leaving a bright line in the dark. Seth's eyes narrow. The wind deepens, clouds gather closer, and the island seems to hold its breath. Seth steps back half a pace, and the air tightens. He lifts his free hand, and sand begins to rise around him, not as a wall, but as a circling veil. It turns slowly at first, then steadies, a pale curtain between him and Horus. The torchlight becomes hazy through the dust, as if the island has drifted into a dream. Seth disappears into that moving veil, and for a moment the only sound is the river, the wind, and the soft scrape of sand against stone. Horus does not rush into it. He stands still, spear held close, listening. He tracks what cannot be seen, the shift of weight, the quiet change in air, the slightest disturbance in the sand. Then Seth strikes from the side, blade appearing suddenly, angled toward Horus's neck. Horus dips low, letting the khopesh pass above him, and drives the spear upward in a clean counter. Seth pulls back in time, but the spear forces Seth's weapon arm wide. Horus turns with the motion, and the butt of the spear lands against Seth's ribs, solid, controlled, a warning. Seth takes one step back, only one, but it is enough to remind the tribunal that Horus is not here to merely endure. Seth's expression tightens, and the storm above seems to notice. Clouds lower. Wind grows more constant. The river's surface roughens as waves begin to tap against the island. Seth moves forward again, testing Horus with quick angles, changing rhythm like an impatient wind. Horus blocks, pivots, yields a half step when necessary, then returns with precise counters, never rushing, never wasting movement. Sparks drift between them like brief fireflies. Horus begins to advance, one spear thrust, then another, each one measured, each one guiding Seth backward. Seth blocks, but he is pushed toward the center of the island, toward open ground. Seth realizes what Horus is doing, and he breaks the pattern with force, a heavy swing meant to crush the spear. Horus redirects it, turning strength into distance, then steps in close again, near enough for their armor to catch torchlight. Horus's voice is low. "You stole what wasn't yours." Seth answers like dry wind. "I took what I could keep." Horus's spear shaft rests firm at Seth's throat, and tonight, you let it go. Seth's smile is small and sharp. He drives a blunt ewter into Horus's chest, breaking the closeness. Horus steps back, boots sliding in sand, and Seth follows. The storm wakes more fully now, still not screaming, just present, pressing. Torches lean, wind pushes, constant. The river sounds louder, as if it's becoming an audience. Seth plants his foot, and sand rises again, this time in pillars, thin towers like teeth. They form a ring around Seth, a circle that feels like a trap built slowly and patiently. Seth stands within it and speaks almost gently. "Come closer, let order step into chaos." Horus watches the ring. He raises his hand, palm open, and the light around him changes. Moonlight seems to step aside, and a soft golden glow forms along Horus's armor. Not blinding, but steady, like sunrise seen through mist. Horus steps forward and enters the ring. The sand pillars tremble, then collapse inward, slow but certain, like jaws closing. Horus sweeps his spear in a wide arc, breaking the collapsing sand into drifting clouds. Seth is already moving within the dust. Blade flashes. Horus blocks. Seth strikes again, closer. Horus steps back once, then counters with a thrust. Seth dodges. The dust thickens, then thins, like breathing. And then Seth's blade finds something important. Not deep injury, not gore, but a bright, sharp line of pain across Horus's vision. The world blurs in one eye like a candle flame dimming. The tribunal stiffens. Isis's breath catches barely. Thoth's gaze sharpens, recording everything. Seth steps closer and whispers, voice almost kind. "Look at you, a king who cannot see clearly." Horus blinks, steadying himself. He lifts his spear and holds his stance, breathing slowly through the haze. Then Horus closes the damaged eye, not in defeat, but in focus. He fights with one eye open, with the other resting, and his movements become calmer, cleaner, more precise. Because Horus has lived in uncertainty before, he has learned to listen to what sight cannot catch. Seth strikes again. Horus blocks. Horus counters. The spear hooks Seth's blade aside. Horus steps in and drives the spear shaft into Seth's wrist. Seth's grip loosens. The khopesh drops. It hits the stone with a heavy final sound. For a moment, the island becomes very quiet. The wind does not stop, but it seems to wait. Seth looks down at the fallen weapon, then up at Horus, and laughs low, humorless, because Seth has never depended on tools. Seth lifts both hands, and the storm answers. Wind pushes across the island in a wide, steady surge, lifting sand into the air. The river grows louder, waves pressing in. Lightning flickers far above, distant but frequent now, like restless thoughts. Seth's body shifts, posture lowering, muscles tightening, and in a smooth transformation he becomes a massive black beast, mythic, powerful, unmistakably divine, not horror, not gore, simply overwhelming force. Horus steps back, spear raised. The beast charges and the impact is heavy, like stone meeting stone. Horus slides across wet sand near the shoreline, his spear digging into the ground to stop him from tumbling into the river. The beast circles once, quick and quiet for something so large, then lunges again. Horus rolls aside, claws striking sand where he was, carving deep lines. Horus rises and jabs with the spear, the tip striking armor and forcing the beast to pull back. The tribunal watches in silence. Ra remains still. Thoth's eyes track every movement. Isis stands like a pillar, holding herself steady. Horus breathes slowly, then changes, not into a beast, but into a symbol. Feather-like patterns ripple across his armor, gold shifting like sunlight on water. The air behind him carries the suggestion of wings, an outline, not literal, like a memory of sky. Horus raises the spear, its tip glowing like a star seen through morning mist, and advances. Storm meets sun. Beast meets king. Seth swings a claw. Horus steps aside. Horus thrusts. Seth twists and slams into Horus's chest with shoulder force, knocking him sideways. Horus regains footing, pivots, and the river splashes against stone like distant applause. Horus leaps onto a stone outcrop, gaining height. Seth circles below, breath steaming faintly in cool air. Horus breathes in and throws the spear. It flies like a clean beam, fast and sure. The spear strikes Seth's armor and pins the beast's shoulder to a stone slab. Seth roars, muted by wind. Horus jumps down quickly and places his hand against Seth's chest. The golden glow surges, not to destroy, but to contain, to settle the storm. Seth's beast form flickers, unstable. Then Seth shifts back into his humanoid form, breathing hard, eyes furious. Seth rips himself free with brute strength, shaking the spear loose, stumbling once, then steadying. Horus retrieves the spear. Seth retrieves the khopesh. Both are armed again. Both are marked by effort. The island feels older now, as if it has absorbed their footsteps into its memory. Above, the clouds turn like a slow wheel. The torches along the shore struggle but remain lit. Thoth watches the line between lawful combat and ruin. Seth steps forward and speaks with less mockery now, more truth. "You think you deserve the crown because you suffered," Seth says. "Because you were hidden, because your mother protected you." Horus answers calmly, almost gently, "The world doesn't owe me." He lifts the spear slightly. "But Egypt does not belong to thieves." Seth tastes the words and attacks again. The strikes are faster now, aimed to confuse, to exploit Horus's damaged eye. Horus blocks, pivots, listens, breathing steady. Seth's blade whistles close. Horus counters. Seth dodges. The exchange loops like waves, repeating with small changes. Then Seth breaks it with a hard ooder against Horus's spear shaft, forcing it wide. Seth steps in and clips Horus's headpiece, sparks drifting. Horus staggers. Seth's blade rests near Horus' throat. The tribunal freezes. Isis tightens with fear for the smallest moment. Seth leans close and whispers, "Yield." Horus does not yield. He drops the spear again, changing the rhythm. Horus grabs Seth's weapon arm with both hands, locking it so the blade cannot swing. They collide chest to chest. Seth tries to wrench free. Horus holds, twisting Seth's wrist, turning the blade away. Horus drives Seth backward into a stone pillar. The pillar cracks, dust falls softly. Seth headbutts Horus, blunt and heavy. Horus absorbs it and shifts weight, throwing Seth off balance. Seth drops to one knee. Horus strikes the ground with his palm, and a golden pulse spreads outward, pushing sand back in a wide ring, revealing stone beneath. Seth slides backward across stone and catches himself. Horus walks toward Seth slowly, like a king approaching a decision. Seth rises, breathing hard, eyes bright with rage and disbelief. "You think this is over?" Seth asks. And then Seth calls the desert. The air becomes suddenly dry, as if humidity is pulled away. Even the river's spray feels like it fades. Sand pours onto the island, not from a visible dune, but from distance, from memory, from the idea of desert made real. Stone begins to disappear beneath drifting grain. Seth's silhouette looks taller, darker, like a storm front rising. Horus St. Eps back and takes the spear again. For a moment its glow dims, pushing against the dryness. Seth's voice is low. "Order needs a foundation," he says. "I am taking the ground away." Sand presses against Horus' legs, heavy and shifting. Thoth's staff glows faintly, warning. Ra's gaze tightens. The tribunal watches the line. Horus closes his good eye for a second. He breathes in slowly, remembering reeds and silence, remembering survival. Horus lifts the spear and points it upward, and he calls the true sky. Clouds shudder. They part slightly. A thin golden line appears on the horizon. Not dawn yet, but a promise. Seth snarls, feeling it. Horus lowers the spear and drives it into the sand at his feet. Golden light spreads outward, steady and wide. The sand hardens into stone. A foundation returns. Order reasserts itself. Seth steps forward with fury. Horus steps forward with calm. Blade meets spear again. The river ripples with the impact, and the final act begins. This time Horus does not retreat. He fights forward with clarity, not anger. He blocks and counters, each movement efficient, as if the battle has finally become what it was always meant to be. Seth tries to break rhythm with force. Horus ducks and drives the spear shaft into Seth's knee. Seth stumbles. Horus follows with a precise thrust to Seth's weapon shoulder, forcing Seth backward. Seth regains footing, swings again, but his motions are less smooth now, fatigue hiding inside rage. Horus steps close, their foreheads nearly level, and speaks softly. "This ends tonight." Seth breathes heavy. "Then end it," he says. Seth unleashes everything. Lightning fractures across the sky, still distant but constant. Wind tears across the island. Sand and river spray twist together. The world feels like it is shaking itself, not loudly, but relentlessly. Seth pressures Horus toward the edge, pushing space, forcing footing. Horus's boots scrape stone. The river below foams. Seth raises the khopesh for a final decisive strike. Horus does not block with strength. He blocks with timing. He angles the spear just right. Seth's blade slams into the spear and slides along it, and in that sliding, Seth overcommits. Chaos becomes predictable. Horus pivots, steps inside Seth's guard, and drives his shoulder into Seth's chest, sending Seth backward. Seth stumbles. Horus twists the spear shaft and knocks the khopesh from Seth's hand again. The weapon clatters and stops near the center of the island. Seth reaches for it, desperate. Horus is already there. Horus plants the spear tip at Seth's throat, not piercing, not killing, just a line, a boundary. The storm hesitates. The river quiets slightly, listening. Horus' voice is steady. It's over. Seth's eyes flicker to the tribunal, to Ra, to Thoth, to Isis. For a moment he looks almost uncertain, then he hardens again because Seth cannot accept stillness. He lunges, desperate, not toward Horus's body, but toward Horus's damaged eye, one last attempt to break the symbol. Horus reacts instantly, and this time he does not defend, he ends it. Horus drives forward with divine force, not gore, not cruelty, just power that knocks Seth backward like a wall of wind. Seth hits the stone and slides, breath knocked from him. Above, the storm wheel cracks, clouds splitting as if the night itself has been released. And on the horizon, dawn arrives. Not a hint, not a promise, the true light of Ra. The tribunal stands. Thoth raises his staff. His voice is clear and calm. Enough. Seth tries to rise, muscles trembling, power faltering. Chaos can rage, but it cannot endure forever against a world that demands balance. Horus walks forward slowly, spear still in hand, damaged eye burning, but posture unbroken. Thoth turns to the tribunal, then speaks the verdict like law written into the sky. By sacred decree and lawful combat, Horus is the rightful ruler of Egypt. Across both shores, mortals exhale, not cheering, not shouting. Relief moves through thousands of throats at once. Ra's gaze settles on Seth, and as the sun climbs, the storm weakens without effort. The tribunal does not destroy Seth, because the ancients understood. You cannot erase chaos. You can only exile it, contain it, send it where it belongs. Ra lifts his hand. Light pours across the island, warm and steady. Seth is forced to his feet by divine command, not dragged, not humiliated, simply removed from the place he should not rule. Sand gathers at Seth's feet, pulling away from the island like the desert calling him home. Seth looks at Horus one last time, voice like dry wind. You will learn. The world needs me. Horus answers without anger. The world needs limits. Seth's mouth twists into a bitter smile. And then he is taken, exiled beyond Egypt's borders, toward the red deserts where storms roam freely, and balance does not pretend to be gentle. The island grows quieter. The river calms. The sky clears. Dawn becomes morning. Horus stands for a moment, breathing, feeling the ache of effort and the weight of what comes next. Thoth approaches with careful precision, restoring what was damaged, not erasing history but making it whole. The eye of Horus becomes more than an eye. It becomes protection, healing, balance. Horus looks at the emblem, then lifts his gaze toward the Nile, toward Egypt, toward the two lands that have waited so long for steadiness. Isis steps onto the island slowly. Her face is calm, but her eyes are bright with something quiet and fierce, pride and understanding, because this was never only about winning, it was about responsibility. Horus turns toward her, and in his posture you can see it. He is no longer the child hidden in reeds. He is no longer the fugitive hunted by storms. He is king, not because he seized power, but because he endured long enough to deserve it. Ra speaks once more, softer now. Let the two lands be whole. And as the sun rises fully, Egypt feels different. Not because chaos is gone forever, but because order has returned to its rightful seat. And now, as the river keeps moving through the brightening world, you don't need to hold the story anymore. If you're still awake, you can let the last torchlight fade in your mind. And if you're ready to sleep, let it happen gently, like dawn arriving, without struggle, over ancient Egypt.